This is Ray Martinez. Thanks for joining me today's podcast. We're going to talk about accountable leadership. Now, last week we talked about responsible leadership, and I know people get this term confused. They think it might be one and the same, but it really isn't. There is a difference. In fact, a big difference, I would say. Responsibility and accountability are related but distinct concepts. Responsibility refers to the duties and the obligations that a person has in a particular role or position. It is a state or fact of being accountable or answerable for something within one's control. For example, a manager may have the responsibility to ensure that a project is completed on time and within budget. Accountability, on the other hand, refers to the willingness of a person to accept responsibility for their actions or decisions. It involves being answerable for the outcomes of one's actions and taking ownership of the consequences. For example, if a project fails, the manager may be held accountable for the failure and may need to explain why it happened and what they will be doing to prevent it from happening again. In summary, responsibility is the obligation to do something, while accountability is accepting the consequences of one's actions or decisions related to the responsibility. Responsibility is a duty, while accountability is the obligation to answer for the outcome of fulfilling that duty. Accountability is often seen as a higher level of responsibility, as it involves taking ownership and being answerable for the results of one's actions. I like to think of the two, responsibility and accountability, like a coin. They have two different sides, but one cannot be without the other. Holding myself accountable. Let's talk about that. As a good leader, it is essential to hold oneself accountable for the outcomes of one's actions and decisions. This really involves being honest with yourself about your strengths and your weaknesses, taking ownership of mistakes, and learning from them to improve performance. To hold oneself accountable, a leader must A. Set clear goals and expectations. A good leader must set clear goals and expectations for themselves and their team. This ensures that everyone is working towards a common objective and makes it easier to hold myself or you accountable for the outcomes. Laramie County Sheriff John Fayen says that accepting the accountability when the organization falls short, but praising the efforts of others when the organization succeeds. B. Measure performance. A good leader must measure their performance against the goals that they have set. This involves tracking progress, identifying areas of improvement, and create metrics and celebrating success. C. Take ownership. A good leader must take ownership of their mistakes and failures. This means acknowledging when the things go wrong and taking responsibility for the consequences. One example of a leader who took ownership for their mistakes and failures is Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. In the early days of her company, Blakely made a major manufacturing mistake that resulted in thousands of defective product being shipped to customers. Rather than blaming others or trying to cover up the mistake, Blakely took full responsibility for the error and immediately contacted every customer who had received a defective product to offer a replacement or a refund. Blakely's willingness to take ownership for the mistake not only helped to save the company's reputation, but also earned her the trust and the loyalty of her customers. Today, Spanx is a hugely successful brand that is sold in stores around the world, and Blakely is widely respected as a leader who is not afraid to admit her mistakes and learn from them. Another example of a police chief who took ownership for their mistakes and failures is Chief Carmen Best of the Seattle Police Department. In 2020, during the protests sparked by the killing of George Floyd, Chief Best made a decision to abandon the East Precinct Police Station, which became a focal point of demonstrators. However, the decision to abandon the precinct was widely criticized, and the police department faced backlash and accusations of abandoning the city's residents. Chief Best recognized that the decision was a mistake and took ownership for it, stating that she made the decision based on the safety of her officers but didn't fully consider the impact on the community. Chief Best went to work with the community leaders to address the concerns of residents and to rebuild trust between the police department and the community. Her willingness to take ownership for the mistake and work to make amends demonstrates strong leadership and a commitment to accountability. D. Learning from mistakes. A good leader must learn from their mistakes and use them as an opportunity for growth and improvement. This involves reflecting on what went wrong, identifying the root cause, and taking action to prevent it from happening again. There are several methodologies that can be used to identify the root cause of the problem, including fishbone diagram, also known as the Ishikawa or cause and effect diagram. This tool is used to identify the potential causes of a problem by breaking it down into categories such as people, process, environment, and equipment. Next, the 5 whys. This technique involves asking why questions repeatedly until the root cause of the problem is identified. It helps to uncover underlying causes of the problem by drilling down to the root cause. Pareto chart. This tool helps to identify the most significant causes of problems by analyzing data and presenting it in a geographical format. It helps to prioritize the causes that need addressing first. Here's another thought. Root causes analysis, they call it RCA. This is a systematic approach to identifying the underlying causes of a problem. It involves collecting data, analyzing it, and identifying the root cause of the problem to develop effective solutions. Next, failure mode and effects analysis, FMEA. This is a proactive approach to identifying potential failures and their causes before they occur. It helps to prevent problems by identifying and addressing the root causes of failure. In summary, holding oneself accountable as a leader involves setting clear goals and expectations, measuring performance, taking ownership of mistakes, and learning from them. By doing so, a leader can build trust, credibility, and respect among their team and stakeholders, and create a culture of accountability and continuous improvement. Holding others accountable with diplomacy is a critical skill for any leader or team member. It requires a delicate balance of assertiveness and tact, which can be challenging to navigate. Some good ways to hold others accountable with diplomacy include: be clear and direct. When holding others accountable, it's important to be clear and undeviating about your expectations and the consequences of not meeting them. However, this can be done in a diplomatic way by framing the conversations in a positive and constructive manner. Focus on the issue, not the person. It's important to separate the issue from the person and avoid personal attacks or criticisms. Instead, focus on the specific behavior or action that needs to be addressed and provide feedback in a constructive and respectful way. Listen actively. Active listening is a key component of holding others accountable with diplomacy. It shows that you are invested in finding a solution and helping to build trust and understanding. Offer support. Holding others accountable doesn't mean leaving them to their own devices. Offering support and resources can help to facilitate change and ensure that everyone is working together on the same goal. Follow up. This is something that we really lack. Following up is a commitment. While holding yourself accountable can set up a positive example and encourage others to do the same. It also reinforces the importance of accountability and shows that you are committed to achieving results. College classes and the business sector may approach accountability differently, but there are some similarities and differences between the two. In college classes, accountability is often taught as a personal responsibility to meet academic requirements and achieve academic success. This typically involves completing assignments on time, attending classes regularly, and preparing for exams. In this context, accountability is more about individual performance and meeting academic expectations. In the business sector, however, accountability is often broader and more complex. It involves taking ownership of your actions and decisions and being answerable to stakeholders, including customers, employees, investors, and the wider community. Accountability in the business sector may include meeting financial targets, complying with regulations, ensuring ethical conduct, and delivering quality products or services. It is about taking responsibility for mistakes and failures and learning from them to improve performance. While accountability in both college classes and the business sector involve taking responsibility for one's actions, the focus and scope of accountability differ. In college classes, accountability is more about personal performance, while in the business sector, it's about organizational and societal impacts. However, both contexts emphasizes the importance of accountability for achieving success and meeting expectations. I have to share my memory of the Italian father Dominic Campana speaking to his family about the importance of education during dinner time one evening has stayed with me. His wise statement, "College is fine as long as you're willing to learn when you get out," resonated with me, and I believe it holds true even today. In the real world, education goes beyond the classroom, and it is through experience that we truly learn and understand accountability. Dominic's words remind us that education is a continuous process, and we must be willing to learn and adapt to succeed in the real world. The memory of that conversation has inspired me to continue learning and growing, even after completing my formal education. There is an old saying that a person does not grow old, but when the person stops growing, he or she becomes old. Dominic's kids learned well, and all of them are very successful business leaders today. Their initial lessons in life came from their father, who traveled from the old country as a young boy to the United States, where he succeeded in securing his citizenship and started work with a trowel and a wheelbarrow as a bricklayer. One brick at a time, he became successful and was the cause of the success of the rest of the family with straight talk in difficult times. He was always honest and forthright with his kids. Leaders need to be truthful because honesty builds trust and credibility, which are essential for effective leadership. When leaders are truthful, they are more likely to be perceived as authentic and reliable, which can inspire confidence and loyalty among their followers. Truthful leaders are also more likely to be respected and admired, which can help them to influence and motivate others to achieve the common goals. Truthfulness is also closely related to accountability because it involves taking responsibility for one's actions and decisions. When leaders are truthful, they are more likely to admit mistakes and learn from them, which can help them to improve their performances and make better decisions in the future. This willingness to be accountable and inspire others to do the same, creating a culture of accountability within the organization. Gino Campana, the son of Dominic Campana, who is a political entrepreneur, states, "People generally know right from wrong. They choose to do wrong." Another great example of leadership was Mary Ontiveros from Colorado State University. The formulation and implementation of the principles of community at Colorado State University was spearheaded by Mary Ontiveros, the Vice President for Diversity. She displayed great leadership in articulating these values that are shared by the university community but had not been clearly defined in one place before. The principles of community are simple yet fundamental values that every leader should embrace. It took courage to identify these core values and implement them across the university, which has approximately 30,000 students, 6,000 faculty, and staff members across 4 campuses in Fort Collins, Colorado. These principles support the mission and vision of Colorado State University, which include access, research, teaching, service, and engagement. A collaborative and vibrant community is a foundation for learning, critical inquiry, and discovery. Therefore, it is the responsibility of each member of the CSU community to uphold these principles when interacting with one another and acting on behalf of the university. The principles of community include inclusion, integrity, respect, service, and social justice. Each of these principles is vital to create the nurturing and inclusive environment where everyone's identities, ideas, talents, and contributions are valued and affirmed. Kate Jaraki's article, Principles of Community Point the Way for Shared Campus Values, provides further insight into the importance of these principles and their impact on the university community. Although Mary Ontiveros has passed away, her legacy of leadership and contribution to the principles of community will endure as a living document for future leaders to follow. In 2010, Mary was named Colorado State University's first Latina Vice President for Diversity. On the other hand, when leaders are not truthful, they can undermine their own credibility and trustworthiness, which can damage their relationships with their followers. Dishonesty can also make it difficult for leaders to hold themselves and others accountable, as it creates a culture of blame and excuses rather than responsibility and learning. The truth will set you free. Taking the blame can earn you credibility. JFK once said after the Bay of Pigs fiasco, "Success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan." In the recent $787.5 million settlement in the defamation lawsuit against Fox News demonstrates the importance of holding news agencies accountable for their reporting. This settlement sends a clear message that inaccurate and defamatory reporting will not be tolerated, and that those responsible will be held accountable for their actions. The impact of this settlement is likely to be felt not only by Fox News as an organization, but also by the employees and anchor people. Going forward, Fox News may be more cautious in its reporting, and its employees may be more aware of the potential consequences of the inaccurate or defamatory reporting. This increased scrutiny could impact the credibility of the network and may require a renewed focus on journalistic ethics and standards. Ultimately, this settlement serves as a reminder that the public expects and deserves accurate and truthful reporting, and that news agencies have a responsibility to uphold to the highest standard of journalism. In summary, leaders need to be truthful because it builds trust, credibility, and accountability, all of which is essential for effective leadership. When leaders are truthful, they can inspire confidence, motivate others, and create a culture of accountability within the organization. The CEO of New Mexico Land and Title, Jay Moore, was asked about what responsibility leadership meant to him, and he replied, "Responsible leadership is not just for entrepreneurs, politicians, businesses, and religious leaders. It is important that everyone has the pride and responsibility to complete their tasks to the best of their abilities. Leaders have a greater duty to lead by example and have the responsibility for their employees, the community, and especially themselves. Respect for everyone under your charge, from the janitors to the executives in the corner office, is critical to the success of a company. In business, you have to deal with the ebbs and flows of the economy, which is the macro aspect of business, but also the micro aspect of the handling and managing the everyday issues and challenges that leaders must confront constantly. A responsible leader lives and owns up to the responsibilities and has the accountability to lead not only their business, but the community at large. As a responsible leader, you guide individual employees and groups of employees to accomplish the goals of a company. It is very easy to recognize a leader by their actions and reactions to everyday challenges. Leadership is the responsibility of everyone in the organization, not just executive management. Jay Moore has offices throughout New Mexico and is a successful business leader for the past 30 years. In a self-said quote, it states, "Before you talk, listen. Before you react, think. Before you criticize, achieve. Before you spend, earn before you quit, try. You have a great day. I hope you enjoyed this episode.